It's not looking too good, is it? Does it remind you of your place? It's dry and surrounded by trees, and it's these trees that are causing the major problem. They block out all the sun and absorb any moisture out of the ground, and the only thing you can get to grow really is these ugly looking weeds. Hello and welcome, I'm Ed Friendo, and if this reminds you of your place, well, stick around because we've got the perfect solution for you from Coolaroo. Let's get into it, and our first job, this jacaranda, has got to go. Now I mentioned we had the perfect solution, and the solution is synthetic grass. Now you've got 4 to choose from. The first 2 is called Active and Play. It's a 9mm pile, UV stabilised, lead-free material, and it comes with a 1-year warranty. And the third one is called Pet. It has a specially designed backing and ideal for animals where the waste can drain through and run off. It has a 30mm 2-tone pile, UV stabilised, lead-free material, and comes with a 5-year warranty. And the last one, the one we're going to be using here, is this natural looking 40mm 3-tone pile. It's called Plush. Now take a look at that. It looks so natural you'll want to mow it yourself. It comes with a lead-free UV stabilised material and has an 8-year warranty. Now how good does that look? Yep, the jacaranda's gone. Now our next step is the preparation. Now you'll need a few tools for this. You'll need a shovel, a pick, a wheelbarrow, a string line and a tape measure. Now the first thing we want to do is just skim off all these weeds from the top. Now the soil is in really good condition, so we don't want to throw that away and waste it. We'll just save it and stockpile it. We can use it around the garden later. Well, the good news is those ugly looking weeds, well, they're all gone and they're a thing of the past. What I've done here, I've just pulled a string line and I've measured parallel to a pathway that's on that side of the garden. Once I pull this nice and tight, then I'll pull another string line down at that end, at your end, nice and square to this one. And to make sure it's square, we'll use a method called 3, 4, 5. Now what that is, if I measure along that string line 3 meters, 4 meters along this string line, the distance from here to there should be 5 meters. And if it is, that means it's perfectly square. Well, that's all the string lines done. That's our first string line there. That's the one we measured parallel to that pathway. The one at that end, that's the one we used our 3, 4, 5 method, and it's square to our original one. From there, we just need to measure parallels. Now parallel means measuring 2 points along the string line at the same distance. That string line there is parallel with this one, and the string line behind me, that's parallel with the string line at that end. This angle here, we simply went from one peg to another, and it's just created a formal feel, a nice looking shape that keeps in keeping with this style of house. We've marked out the shape now. Now it's time for the excavation. What we need to do here, we need to dig down to 75mm or so, and that'll allow for 50mm of our base material and 25mm for the synthetic grass. Now we've set our string line here to the finished ground level, the height that we want the grass to be finished. Now if you use a standard brick, there's 76mm. Now that's close enough for us to 75mm. If you use that as a gauge, that'll tell you if you're in the right depth or not. Across the middle, you can just pull another couple of string lines and just use the brick and slide it in. If it fits in underneath, then you're good to go. We're just about there with the depth. You can see where he squared those shoulders off around the string line. Now that's important because you want the base material at least to be nice and square at the edges. Now when you have an example like this one and you're going to join your synthetic grass with an existing level, you need to pay particular attention to your depth because you want the surface to finish nice and flush with the existing one. Our excavation is all done and I'm really happy with the depth. We've got 75mm right through now. Now our next step is we need to spray the whole area with a weed killer, and we're going to go to the added preventative of using a weed mat. Now this is a Coolaroo product. It's a woven fabric and allows the air and water to penetrate through. We'll lay it all out and all those ugly looking weeds that we used to have will be kept at bay. This product is available in a 5-metre roll, or this 25-metre roll will do the whole area. We've got our weed mat down. I just want to tell you a couple of things. Now with the join, it's important to overlap. Now you don't just butt them up together because there'll be a bit of a gap and the weeds will just grow through in the middle. Now on the ends, just lap it up, fold it up the side. That'll stop the weeds growing in sideways. Now with the lap, you need a minimum of 50mm, but just spread it out evenly. We've got probably 150 to 200mm here. Now that doesn't matter. The point is you just need to have at least 50mm. Now we're up to our base material, and we've had ours delivered, so you'll need to work out how much you need. Now it's sold in cubic metres. Now to do that needs a bit of maths. You need to times the length by the width by the depth. Now our depth is 60 millimetres, so you need to multiply by 0.06. That's that deep. Not by 0.6, because that's that deep, and that's way too deep for what we need. Now depending on what state you're from, this will have a couple of different names. In this case it's called B-grade crushed rock. It might be called road base or crusher dust. Doesn't matter what it's called, just make sure it's a material that can be compacted to a nice hard surface, because that's exactly what we need. Now when you fill your barrow up, don't get too carried away and fill it right to the top. You've got to push it, don't forget. Particularly when you're pushing up a ramp like that. Just fill it about 3/4 of the way and you'll be fine. Now I'm just using a straight edge here. Now a straight edge can just be a piece of timber or a piece of aluminium, as long as it's fairly straight. What you want to do is just move it from side to side, and that just scrapes across the top here. And so you get a nice flat surface. If you see any holes like this one, you can just put some of the excess back in the hole there. Just work your way across. Now all our base material is in and it's nice and straight. Our next step, we need to compact it. Now you need one of these. Now technically it's called a plate compactor, but when you go and pick one up, if you ask for a whacker packer, that's exactly what you'll get. Now they're loud, so you need your safety gear. You need your earplugs or ear muffs, your safety glasses, good solid boots, and you'll need your gloves. Now we've got all our packing done and it's nice and firm, but what happens with the base material, because it's such a coarse product, with the plate compactor it tends to have a lot of dips and hollows. Now the way to fix that is just get some bricky sand, and what you want to do is actually cast it across the surface. Just like that. Now this needs to be about 10 millimetres thick, no more than that, and it'll just fill up all the hollows and you'll get a nice flat surface. Well, here it is. The part we've been waiting for, we're ready to lay out the synthetic grass. Now this is a 10-metre roll. We've laid it out here on the driveway just so we can cut it to length. Our particular length is 4.9 metres, so we'll mark it out and just cut it here, then take it up to the job. You'll need a few tools. You'll need a tape measure, a utility knife, some joining tape, and some pins, which we'll explain a bit more about later. Now when you're cutting this material, it's easier and a lot better to cut it from the back. So what I've done here, I've just stretched my tape out to 4900, because that's going to be our length. What I'll do is I'll just put a little nick here with a utility knife, do the same on that side, and then we'll just fold this back over, join up the two marks, and we can cut it. Now we've rolled our first section out, but before we get into the second one, you need to pay particular attention to the way the grass is going. Now this one, if you look here, it's travelling that way. So what I'm going to make sure is my second roll is facing the same way. Okay, I've got an offcut here, you can see that there, but if we lay this that way, for example, this grass is going that way, this one is going this way, it's going to look wrong. Now our third section of the grass doesn't need the full width or the 1.83 metres of the roll, so I need to cut it down to 1300, and the best way to do that is just do a little cut with your knife. And then as you go along, follow the centre of the stitch. This way. Now we're up to the joining stage. Now if you want your synthetic grass to look as natural as possible, these joins need to be invisible. So you need to take your time. We use a joining product, a joining tape. It's a Coolaroo product, commercial grade, and it's self-adhesive, which is much stronger than the glue method. Now the beauty of this product, it has a backing, a peel-off backing in two halves. So I can peel off one side, stick that to the underside of one section of the grass, and then fold the other half over. You've got to make sure, get the joints as tight as possible so these joints are invisible. Once you've glued down half the joining tape, just peel off the paper. You don't need to peel this paper all the way back. Let's just do a section at a time. because you need to take your time with this. Now the most important thing is here is that we don't get any grass stuck between the joint, and I want to make sure my backing joins up with the backing. Alright, so just take your time, push that down, just make sure there's no grass caught in between. Now we've done all the taping of the joints. Now what you're going to do is, before we pin it down, is to stretch out the synthetic grass just to even it out. It will settle, but it has been rolled up. Now the pin's a bit like a staple. You want to pin it over the joint. Now you want to bridge the gap. Now depending on how good you were with the joint, you might have to look for it. But just put one leg of the pin on either side, tap it into the ground. Now this is where you've got to be careful. You don't want to drag the grass down with the pin. Otherwise you'll just see all these pins. Every 300 millimeters these got to be. So clear out a space and just drive it in. Take your time. Just make sure that's all clear. Drive it down and just brush up the grass over the top. You'll never know it was there. What I'm doing here, I'm just sprinkling out some dry sand, some fine sand. Now the idea is here is that it needs to get in between the grass to keep it upright. It just settles down. And if you use a stiff yard broom like this one, that just flicks the grass up. Now you need to work against the grain. Earlier we spoke about the grain of the grass. Now in this case it's running towards you. So Alan's just moving the broom away against the grain. That makes it stand up nice and straight. Well, we're just about there now. The only thing we need to do is just tidy up the edges and have a nice new sharp blade in your knife and cut around, and then we can just pin around the perimeter. Same deal with these pins. Every 300 millimeters, just make sure the pin doesn't drag the grass down with it to create a hole. Well, what do you think? I know what I think. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. A few days ago we were standing here surrounded by ugly weeds, and now look, we've got a beautiful green, maintenance-free front yard. We've applied the sand. Just give it a couple of weeks to settle naturally, and maybe after about 4 weeks or so, you too will have a beautiful front yard just like this one.